Welcome back, everyone. We are doing epic history. They put a new video out, we react to it. That's just how it happens. This is how it goes. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're reacting to Ultra, World War II's Greatest Secret, Part 1. This is a series, the part. 25 minutes on the clock. Glad you're here. Let's jump into it. This is, of course, about the Enigma. This, of course, is also about the Imitation Game. If you know, you know. Let's go. You're the geese that laid the golden eggs.
During the deadliest war in history, Britain and the Allies stand against the Axis powers. Nazi Germany has unleashed a new kind of warfare, swift, dynamic, and merciless.
And I don't think Epic History's done any World War II content. Have they? I don't think so. I might be wrong.
It's coordinated by radio communication, sent in sophisticated codes which the German High Command believed to be unbreakable.
The wooden box, bro. I remember the wooden box.
But far from the front lines, in a quiet corner of England, a secret operation is underway. Thanks to brilliant minds, cutting-edge technology, and tireless persistence, the communications of the Axis powers are being revealed.
I'm so glad this story's being told, man.
Generating intelligence that could win the war for the Allies. These secrets are protected by the highest security classification,
Ultra. Right? Because before, I think it was like, I don't know what it was, but it was like top secret or something like that. But then they changed it to Ultra. And then America has one called Magic for the Japanese. Enigma.
1939. Europe is on the brink of war. Since seizing power, Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party have dismantled Germany's democratic institutions and rapidly expanded its armed forces in preparation for a war of conquest. Radio will be the backbone of military communication in the coming conflict. And in wartime, every message must be carefully encrypted using secret codes. If you can break your enemy's wartime codes, you can see the composition and condition of their forces and gain early warning of impending attacks. Throughout the 1930s, British codebreakers have been studying German encryption methods with limited success. But they are about to be granted a breakthrough.
XYZ.
Somewhere in the Pere forest outside Warsaw, a secret meeting is taking place between the intelligence services of France, Britain, and Poland.
That's incredible. Just a few months before invasion.
Referring to themselves as X, Y, and Z, the three nations have been working to break German codes. Among the British party is Dilly Knox, a brilliant and eccentric academic who's one of Britain's foremost cryptanalysts. His scholarly research had focused on reconstructing complex Greek poetry from tiny fragments of ancient papyrus.
Interesting.
Like his counterparts in the French and Polish intelligence services, Knox's focus is the cipher machine used by the German military.
Enigma.
A device that's small and portable, yet generates codes that might be unbreakable. It's called Enigma. In the field, its operation is straightforward. A message is typed on the keyboard, and with each key press, the operator notes down the letter illuminated on the lamp panel above.
It's so similar to our keyboard. Like if you look at it, like the QWERT is still there. And by the way, I'm very curious. Like, this is so tangent. What is the reasoning for this order of letters? It could, it could have been in chronological A, B, C, D, but is this scientifically like backed why they put it this way? But interesting. If I look at my keyboard and I look at their keyboard, worked. Interesting. I'm gonna go back.
Down the letter illuminated on the lamp panel above. A message is typed on the keyboard, and with each key press, the operator notes down the letter illuminated on the lamp panel above.
Ah, yep. So basically, it's like I guess if it's static in terms of like it doesn't change, like if I press A, it's always going to be R up top. So I'm wondering, so if it's static that way, all you gotta do is learn the match. But then again, could you reset that? So interesting.
These letters are transmitted by radio in Morse code, and at the receiving end they're typed into an Enigma machine with precisely the same settings. The illuminated letters on the lamp panel will reveal the original message.
So cool, man. So cool. So easy too, it feels like.
But which letter lights up to each keystroke is determined by a tangle of electrical connections within 3 rotors that shift with every key press. Each rotor's internal wiring is unique, and they can be rearranged to create new electrical pathways.
That's the interesting part, the new pathways. So it's dynamic, meaning it can change.
As a final layer of security, a plug board at the front of the machine swaps letters in pairs. It has 150 million possible configurations. Although Dilly Knox understands how Enigma works in principle, he needs to know how the machine is wired internally.
So he needs one.
He's hoping for answers from the Poles. Poland is facing the imminent threat of German invasion, and
Did they know that though? That's the interesting thing. I'm obviously a novice in some parts of history, but how immediate was the invasion? I know it's obvious that it happened, but how much intelligence did they have before it happened?
they are willing to share knowledge in exchange for support from France and Britain. What they reveal at this meeting will finally unlock the secrets of Enigma.
Oh.
The story of the Polish breakthrough begins in 1931, when a German named Hans Thilo Schmidt walks into the French embassy in Berlin. He offers stolen German cryptographic secrets in exchange for cash. His offer is accepted. Among the documents he provides, codebooks and detailed operating instructions for Enigma. The French and British intelligence services aren't convinced it's enough to break the Enigma code. But the Poles are far more concerned about a possible future conflict with Germany. They accept the documents and hand them to 3 brilliant mathematicians: Henryk Zygalski, Jerzy Rożycki, and Marian Rejewski.
I feel like I should know these people, but I do not.
Rejewski achieves the most remarkable breakthrough. Astonishingly, with only the incomplete information from Hans Thilo Schmidt, he reduces the Enigma's operation to a series of mathematical equations and reconstructs the machine's internal wiring.
Dang!
With Rejewski's breakthrough, Poland is able to break Enigma messages as early as 1933. And by 1938, they are breaking 75% of intercepted Enigma communications.
Pretty good.
But their success comes to a sudden halt. As
changed.
German rearmament gathers pace, its military tightens Enigma procedures and introduces 2 new rotors.
So there's 5 rotors.
These rotors can be swapped with the existing 3 in 60 possible combinations. This massive increase in complexity means Poland can no longer read Enigma traffic. And now, with a German attack seemingly imminent, they decide to share their Enigma research.
Finally.
An astonished Dilly Knox gratefully accepts the information provided by the Poles. Britain is now armed with the intelligence it needs to begin the fight against Enigma, and preparations have already begun.
Got a lot of stuff happening up to the war. Captain Ridley's shooting party. 18th of September 1938, so about a year before the invasion.
Something strange is happening in the small English town of Bletchley, just north of London. At the old manor house on the outskirts of town, workers are pouring concrete, installing new telephone cables and hooking up power lines.
Headquarters.
Meanwhile, a collection of eccentric academics is starting to arrive. The purpose of their visit is a state secret. They are Codebreakers from the Government Code and Cipher School, or GC&CS.
And of course, I believe this is where the imitation game mainly takes place, in this particular area. So if you want to enrich yourself in some American and British documentary film, go watch that.
And they are tasked with breaking the secret codes of Britain's wartime enemies. With war seemingly imminent, Captain William Ridley, Chief Administrative Officer of the Foreign Intelligence Service, has organised an evacuation of Britain's codebreakers to the manor house at Bletchley. The site is out of the way of potential German bombing raids, but
they were thinking about that early? I mean, good for them, right? But that's crazy to think about.
Well connected by telephone and rail. The operation will become known as Captain Ridley's Shooting Party. The manor house will serve as a wartime home for GC&CS. But the head of the organisation, Commander Alistair Denniston, has another problem to solve.
Which is what?
Denniston is in charge because of his code-breaking work in World War I. His modest, calm demeanour works well to keep his sometimes eccentric staff in line. At this time, GC&CS has around 150 staff working in a relaxed and academic atmosphere. The staff affectionately nickname it the Golf Club and Cheese Society.
Very casual.
But if war breaks out, they will receive mountains of intercepted communications and will have to turn code-breaking into an industrial operation. Denniston begins a search for what he calls men of the professor type, and he doesn't have to look far from Bletchley Park. Oxford is to the west, and Cambridge to the east. The university is a fertile ground for recruitment. Amongst his early recruits are two mathematicians. Gordon Welshman, a brilliant codebreaker whose ideas will revolutionise methods at Bletchley Park, and Alan Turing,
which is probably the most famous of these names so far.
Genius whose work at Bletchley will lead to huge advancements in the fledgling field of computer science. GC&CS now has a base of operations and a list of potential staff ready for the outbreak of war. But in 1938, the further appeasement of Hitler by the Munich Agreement removes the imminent threat of conflict. The men and women of Captain Ridley's shooting party go back to their regular London offices. They would return to Bletchley 1 year later.
September 1939. Here we are. Here it is. Into the war. And not to mention, Russia also invades Poland.
Britain is at war. The nation mobilizes. Young men are called up for military service. Older men and women take jobs in factories. Those outside the cities prepare to take in evacuee children. Meanwhile, GC and CS makes its official move to Bletchley Park. The flood of intercepted German messages begins to arrive. The pressure is on.
Yeah, you gotta have a system to intercept it. So you're getting mountains of messages. You gotta have a scalable way to intercept, code, documents, transmit back, and all while you're doing that, you're getting more messages. Insane. Yeah, computers would have been really, really nice to have back then.
Intercepting enemy communications is the job of outposts called WWII stations, dotted around the British Isles and colonies. Here, radio operators scan the airwaves for the staccato pulses of German military traffic. It's delicate work. Signals can drift across the spectrum, be distorted by weather, or be buried under other radio signals using the same frequency. From the WWII stations, messages are sent to Bletchley for analysis. But there's more than one Enigma code to break. The German Army, Navy and Air Force use a variety of separate networks, each using different settings for their Enigma machines.
That challenges everything.
Each network must be broken individually. They're given color codes.
Good.
Army traffic is green, red and brown for the Air Force. Eventually there'll be so many networks that the codebreakers run out of colors and start to use the names of animals, insects and plants.
Oh. Yeah, there we go. Western Europe, the conflict enters a phase known as the phony war. Yeah, there's now troops in the ground, but we're at war type thing. Yet. For now.
In its early days, Bletchley Park is chronically understaffed and overcrowded. Codebreakers work 24 hours a day in shifts. The operation quickly outgrows the manor house, and much of the work is moved to hastily assembled outbuildings in the grounds. The huts, as they are known, are very basic, with hard concrete and wood floors, bare light bulbs, and windows that are blacked out at night. At first, codebreaking is done by hand, with pencils and squared paper. It's exhausting work that requires sustained mental effort, and as much patience and concentration as brain power. The first methods to break Enigma are inherited from Polish codebreakers who had discovered a critical security flaw in the German military's procedures. Each day, Enigma operators are given instructions on which rotors to use and in what order. Each rotor's inner wiring is also offset with an external ring. This is known as the ring setting. Then they follow instructions on how to wire the plug board. Finally, the operator chooses a starting position for the rotors, which must be unique for each message. This is known as the message setting.
Okay. So you have a rotor setting, you have the plug board, and you have a message setting.
This message setting must be sent to the recipient so they can decode the incoming message.
Exactly.
But without broadcasting it to enemy eavesdroppers.
So how do you do that?
To do this, the operator encrypts the message setting using the Enigma machine itself. They set the rotors to a starting position known as the ground setting. Next, they key in their unique three-letter message setting. Finally, they set their rotors to the message setting and type the message. But to guard against radio interference, German protocol dictates that the message setting be typed in twice.
So when you see a dupe message, you know that's the message setting, which you can use as a foundation for decrypting for other messages.
This is the critical security flaw the Poles have identified.
So quality assurance is the security flaw. Security problem. Love it.
It means Allied codebreakers can get two sets of three letters that they know must have been identical before encoding. The repetition of an identical group of letters gives them a way in to the Enigma code. In January 1940, Bletchley breaks Enigma for the first time, cracking the daily settings for the Air Force and Army Enigma. British codebreakers are reading military orders and reports in almost real time. It's an astonishing intelligence coup, and the Germans have no idea it's happened. But just 4 months later, the Germans unexpectedly tighten security and change their procedures. Overnight, many techniques inherited from Polish codebreakers become useless.
So we're back to square one?
Bletchley Park is blind once more,
Dang.
just as Hitler prepares to launch a devastating new offensive.
Now, what is that, like? 9 months after invading Poland, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, the Western Offensive begins, which really puts pressure on this operation.
As fighting rages in France, one of Bletchley Park's newest recruits provides a breakthrough.
Turing?
21-year-old mathematician John Heriville had only just joined the operation when he had a flash of inspiration. Perhaps the way into Enigma isn't through any cryptographic weakness, but through human error.
Through human error? Yeah?
Heriville put himself in the mind of an Enigma operator, starting a shift at dawn and being ordered to rush off an important message. After setting up their machine, an operator who was tired, stressed, or just lazy might not randomize the rotor positions before sending their message. This meant that the starting rotor position might be the same or close to the ring setting. Heriville's insight gives the codebreakers a way back into Enigma. On the 22nd of May...
But wouldn't that only be for those select individuals versus the competent ones?
They use Heriville's techniques to break the Luftwaffe's Enigma traffic, codenamed Red.
Dang.
This network stays broken for most of the conflict. But no code-breaking success can compensate for the fact that the Allies are clearly losing the war.
Oh yeah? Dunkirk, yep. This is right when Churchill takes over. Right before. Churchill took over like a month ago, almost.
Britain faces its darkest hour of the war. On the 16th of July 1940, Hitler issues Directive Number 16, calling for the development of invasion plans for the British Isles. But before that can happen, Germany will have to knock out Britain's air defences. That summer, the German Luftwaffe battles the Royal Air Force in the skies over southern England. The RAF has several advantages, not least that thanks to Bletchley Park Hut 6, the British are reading the Luftwaffe's Enigma traffic.
Very interesting.
The RAF gets advance notice of German flight paths and targets, allowing it to ambush enemy bombers, and giving those on the ground some warning of an incoming raid.
And one thing that maybe it's known, maybe it's not known, is was there an inverse operation happening on the German side for the British intelligence? So what I mean by like, was there Enigma coding and all that for like the British intelligence and the British communications, the Allied communications? I'm sure there was. Was that known? Was that found? I'm not sure. I don't know this stuff.
It also allows the British to jam and disrupt German navigational signals for their bombers, sending them off course. The Luftwaffe is defeated. But though the threat of invasion has passed, Britain's position remains perilous.
Yeah, because this is before, you know, the Blitz.
Hitler dominates the continent. The USA refuses to be dragged into the conflict. The Soviets have made their own pact with Germany.
Non-aggression.
And the British face another crisis. At sea, German U-boats prey on ships carrying vital supplies to Britain. The Battle of the Atlantic has the potential to be the decisive conflict of the war. Breaking German naval codes will become a top priority for Bletchley Park, in a race to save the convoys and save Britain.
Is that what we talk about next time?
In World War II, intercepting messages and
This is an ad. I can smell it. I knew it. I knew it. So let's pause here, guys. Real quick, a reflection. Interesting stuff here. You know, we're just on the cusp of this series. It seems like we'll at least have a part 2. Don't know where we'll go after part 2, but the smartest individuals, probably some of the smartest individuals in terms of mathematicians and code breaking, took this project at Bletchley and ran with it. And they're kind of like in the mix right now. They're kind of like, you know, halfway. They're not doing hot in the war, the Allies. Now you got this naval situation. The RAF saves Britain because if you don't have an RAF, well, what will stop complete annihilation of the British Isles? And then America's like in this weird situation where we're kind of like, you know, on the sidelines. We have support, but we don't want to, you know, we don't want to jump into this conflict yet. So as always, I mean, think about it. I mean, there's so much to say, but there's so much not to say because we have another part to start. But this is really just like the setup of everything, the intricacies between this machine. And you would think that, I mean, I don't know if they didn't mention it, but you would think like the #1 operation would maybe to get maybe someone in the into Germany and smuggle one of these machines out. Now, I think that would be quite hard to do, but if they were able to smuggle one of these machines out, they could have reverse engineered it a little bit quicker, I think. But they do understand how it works within the rotors, within the actual plugs, within the actual message settings. And the interesting part about like the incompetence measuring, so like if there's an incompetent individual that's lazy and that does not do like the full-on procedure, well, we're able to reverse engineer that, and then we'll have those coded messages. So it seems like there was 2 operations going on at the same time. There was preying on incompetence, but also trying to figure out the competent measures, the thing at default, the thing at status quo. So don't know a lot about this stuff, but we are learning, and I'm glad that you guys were here to be a part of this. Now, thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next time. Leave a video description. Leave a video recommendation down in the comments below. Join our Discord. Do all the things. Love you. See you next time. Peace out.